Don't touch me. Emily Carter's voice shook, but she refused to let the fear inside her turn those words into a plea. Her shoes struck the polished stone floor as she hurried through the dim corridor of Blackwood Palace, one hand clutching the folds of her simple blue dress while cold moonlight spilled through the towering windows beside her. Somewhere behind her, a door opened. Emily didn't look back. She had spent her entire life being told what an Omega should endure quietly, what she owed her pack, and how grateful she should be whenever someone stronger decided her future for her. Tonight, she was done listening. She rounded the corner too quickly and nearly collided with a tall man stepping from the shadows. He caught her by the arms before she fell. Emily gasped. For one suspended heartbeat, neither of them moved. He was broad-shouldered, dressed entirely in black, with dark hair and gray eyes that seemed almost silver beneath the moonlight. There was something unsettlingly still about him, as though the entire palace could collapse around him and he would simply stand there watching the dust settle. "Let me go," Emily whispered. His hands released her immediately. That surprised her more than resistance would have. She stepped backward, breathing hard. "You're running from something," he said. "I'm running from everyone who thinks they get to choose for me." Something changed in his expression. Before he could answer, voices echoed from the staircase behind her. Emily turned toward the sound, panicked, then tried to slip past him. Her shoe caught against the edge of the rug. She stumbled. The stranger reached out instinctively. Emily twisted at the same moment, and their faces collided in one awkward, breathless instant. Her teeth caught his lower lip. She jerked away in horror. A tiny bead of red appeared there. "Oh my God. I'm sorry." The man didn't answer. His entire body had gone motionless. Then his silver-gray eyes flashed amber. Emily's breath stopped. Something ancient seemed to move behind those eyes. Something neither civilized nor cruel, simply certain. A low sound rumbled in his chest. "Mine." Emily stared at him. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in courage and destiny, hit like and subscribe. These stories remind us, love finds the broken." Now back to Emily. 6 hours earlier, she had entered Blackwood Palace believing the worst thing waiting for her was a tedious royal gathering. Her uncle Richard had told her Moonridge pack needed one representative at the autumn summit. Nothing more. Emily had believed him because she wanted to believe him. Now she knew better. The truth had been waiting inside a cream-colored envelope left on the dressing table of her assigned room. Emily had opened it expecting a dinner schedule. Instead, she found a list of 24 names printed beneath the royal crest. She read the heading once. Then again, her fingers slowly tightened around the page. Royal choosing ceremony. Potential mates for His Majesty. Near the bottom, written as plainly as if someone had listed an item for delivery, were two words that made the room suddenly feel too small. Emily Carter. Emily read her name a third time, hoping the letters would somehow rearrange themselves into someone else's. They did not. Her pulse beat hard beneath her ribs as footsteps approached outside the room. The door opened, and Richard Carter entered wearing the calm expression of a man who had spent the entire trip preparing his excuses. His gaze dropped to the paper in Emily's hand. "You found it." Emily stared at him. "You knew?" Richard closed the door quietly. "Emily, listen to me. You told me I was here for the autumn summit, because you would not have come otherwise." The admission landed harder than any apology could have softened. Emily placed the paper on the dressing table because her fingers had begun trembling. Outside the tall windows, Blackwood Palace glowed beneath the evening sky, its stone towers rising above miles of dark forest. Hundreds of lights burned across the grounds. Somewhere below, carriages continued arriving with families dressed for celebration. Emily suddenly understood why so many young women had been brought here. "You volunteered me for the Alpha King's choosing ceremony." Richard's shoulders sagged. "Moonridge is failing. That does not answer me. Our winter stores are low. 3 neighboring packs have withdrawn their protection agreements. If Moonridge receives royal protection, our families will be safe." Emily felt something cold settle in her stomach. "And what does that have to do with me?" Richard hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. "If someone from Moonridge is selected," he said carefully, "the crown grants protected status to the entire pack." Emily looked toward the mirror. A pale young woman in a simple blue dress stared back at her, suddenly looking like a stranger inside someone else's plan. So you traded my choice for security. Nobody traded you. Then I can leave. Richard said nothing. Emily turned. I can leave, right? His silence stretched too long. The ceremony begins tonight, he finally said. Your name has already been entered. Emily gave a small, disbelieving laugh. Entered is not the same as agreed. Please understand what is at stake. I do understand. Her voice became quieter and somehow stronger. That is exactly why this is wrong. Richard stepped closer. There are children in Moonridge whose families may lose their homes this winter. The words found the tender place he knew existed in her. Emily pictured the little schoolhouse near Cedar Creek, the bakery where Mrs. Dawson always slipped extra rolls into struggling families' bags, the elderly wolves who could no longer travel safely between territories. For one painful moment, guilt pulled at her. Then she looked at the royal list again. Kindness was not consent. Loving her home did not mean surrendering ownership of her future. I would have helped if you had asked me, she whispered. But you did not ask. A bell sounded somewhere deep within the palace. Once. Twice. Richard's face tightened. That is the first call. We need to go downstairs. Emily looked toward the door, then toward the narrow window beside the wardrobe. Beyond it, she could see a servant's courtyard and, perhaps 200 feet farther, the northern gate standing open beneath two lanterns. Richard reached for the ceremony invitation. Emily had already made her decision. She smiled faintly and said, Give me 5 minutes to change. The relief on his face made her heart ache. He nodded and stepped outside. The instant the door closed, Emily removed her formal shoes, grabbed her coat, and slipped into the servants' corridor. She was not going downstairs. She was going home. By the time the second bell echoed through Blackwood Palace, Emily Carter had already crossed two servants' corridors and descended a narrow staircase that smelled faintly of cedar and fresh bread. She moved quickly but quietly, carrying her shoes beneath one arm, while her coat covered the blue dress Richard expected to see downstairs. Every few seconds, she glanced behind her. No one followed. Not yet. Across the palace, Nathaniel Blackwood stood beneath the carved silver crest of his family, while 23 women waited for him to choose among them. He had attended treaty negotiations with less ceremony. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over the royal hall. Musicians played softly from the balcony, and representatives from nearly every major pack in the Northern Territories watched from polished oak tables. Nate felt nothing. One by one, names were announced. One by one, hopeful faces turned toward him. His wolf remained silent. Victoria Hale stood nearest the throne in an ivory gown, composed and confident. Her father controlled 3 prosperous territories, and half the royal council had spent months reminding Nate that choosing her would make political sense. Perhaps that was precisely the problem. A mate was not supposed to make sense on a ledger. Your Majesty? Ethan Brooks murmured beside him. Nate realized the announcer had stopped speaking. What? Ethan lowered his voice. They are waiting. Nate looked across the room again. Something was wrong. He could feel it now, faint as a change in pressure before a storm. His attention moved past Victoria, past the council members, toward the final row of chairs reserved for smaller packs. One chair was empty. A card rested against its back. Moonridge. Nate's wolf stirred. He went completely still. For 7 years, that presence inside him had responded to threats, commands, and the moon, but never to another person. Now a strange awareness moved through him with startling clarity. Not a voice. Not yet. More like an instinct waking from a long sleep. Nate stepped down from the platform. Conversation faded around him. Victoria watched him cross the hall toward the empty chair. Who was assigned here? He asked. An attendant checked the registry. Emily Carter, Your Majesty. Omega representative from Moonridge. Nate touched the back of the chair. A delicate scent lingered there, almost lost beneath perfume, candle wax, and evergreen decorations. Rain. Cedar. Something warm he could not name. His heartbeat changed. Ethan noticed. Nate. The king looked toward the doors. Where is she? Meanwhile, Emily reached the ground floor and slipped behind a pair of kitchen workers carrying silver trays. Through an open archway, she caught a glimpse of the royal hall and immediately lowered her face. She was less than 300 feet from the northern gate. Freedom had never looked so close. Upstairs, Richard entered her empty room. Emily. He saw the open wardrobe, the missing coat, and the servant's door slowly swinging on its hinges. His face drained of color. Back in the royal hall, Nate suddenly turned his head toward the western passage. The faint scent was stronger there. His wolf rose inside him with such certainty that his breath caught. Find her. Nate left the ceremony without explanation. Behind him, hundreds of guests began whispering. Ahead of him, somewhere beyond the candlelit corridors, Emily pushed open another door and saw the northern gate waiting beneath the moon. She started running. Emily was 20 feet from the northern gate when a man's voice stopped her. Why are you running? She turned so quickly that her coat swung around her ankles. The stranger stood beneath the stone archway behind her, dressed in black, his dark hair slightly disordered as though he had crossed half the palace in a hurry. Emily recognized the silver-gray eyes before anything else. She did not recognize the man. There was no crown, no ceremonial cloak, nothing to suggest royalty. To her, he looked like another member of the palace guard, although an unusually imposing one. That is none of your business, she said. He glanced toward the open gate, then back at her. You are Emily Carter. Her stomach tightened. How do you know my name? He ignored the question. You were expected at the ceremony. Then whoever expected me should have asked first. The stranger studied her with an expression Emily could not read. His calmness irritated her almost as much as Richard's deception. She stepped toward the gate. He moved into her path, not touching her, simply standing there. Move. I need to understand why you are leaving. Emily almost laughed. No, you do not. Footsteps echoed faintly somewhere inside the palace. She looked over her shoulder. They were getting closer. Please move. Something in her voice made his expression soften. Are you in danger? Not the kind you mean. Then what are you afraid of? Emily stared at him. The answer had been trapped inside her for hours, perhaps for years. I am afraid of waking up one morning and realizing everyone else made every important choice in my life because they decided an Omega should be grateful just to be included. The stranger went still. Emily swallowed. My uncle brought me here without telling me what this ceremony really was. My name was entered without my permission. Now everyone keeps talking about duty, protection, and what my pack needs, as if that means I stop belonging to myself. For the first time, the man's controlled expression cracked. Not with anger, with recognition. No one should make that choice for you, he said quietly. Emily blinked. She had expected an argument. Then let me leave. He looked toward the gate. For one strange second, she thought he might. Then the approaching footsteps grew louder, and Emily's fear returned. She stepped around him. He turned at the same moment, reaching out when her shoe slipped against the smooth stone. His hand caught her arm before she fell, but Emily twisted instinctively. Their faces bumped together. Her teeth caught his lower lip for the briefest instant. Emily froze. He did too. She pulled back, horrified. A tiny bead of red appeared against his lip. Oh my God. I am so sorry. He did not seem to hear her. His silver-gray eyes flashed amber. The air around him changed, becoming strangely still. Emily heard a low sound in his chest, more instinct than speech. Mine. Her heartbeat stumbled. What did you say? Before he could answer, several guards rushed through the archway. Emily stepped away from him, expecting them to seize her. Instead, every guard stopped. Then, as one, they bowed their heads. Your Majesty. Emily forgot how to breathe. Slowly, she turned toward the stranger. The man she had ordered out of her way was Nathaniel Blackwood, the Alpha King. Emily stared at Nathaniel as if the guards had spoken in another language. The Alpha King, the man whose ceremony she had escaped, the man whose lip she had accidentally caught with her teeth, and, somehow more frightening than either fact, the man whose eyes were still glowing amber as he looked at her. Emily took one careful step backward. Nathaniel noticed immediately. His hands lowered to his sides, making no attempt to stop her. Everyone leave us, he said. The guards hesitated. Your Majesty, the council is searching for you. Then they can keep searching. His voice remained quiet, yet every guard obeyed. Within seconds, Emily and Nathaniel stood alone beneath the northern archway. Beyond the open gate, a moonlit road curved toward the forest. Freedom was less than 30 feet away. Emily looked at it. Nathaniel followed her gaze. You can go. She turned sharply. What? His eyes had returned to silver gray, although tension remained in his face. You said you wanted to leave. Emily searched for the trick hidden inside his words. Your wolf just called me. She stopped before repeating it. Nathaniel understood. I know. What does that mean? Silence settled between them. Wind moved through the pine trees beyond the wall, carrying the clean scent of approaching rain. It means my wolf recognized something in you, Nathaniel said. Something I did not expect. Emily folded her arms tightly around herself. A mate. He did not answer immediately, and that hesitation was answer enough. Her stomach dropped. Of all the impossible things that could have happened tonight, fate had apparently chosen the cruelest joke. She had fled a ceremony designed to place her future in the Alpha King's hands, only to discover that some ancient instinct might have done exactly that. So I cannot leave. I did not say that. Nathaniel stepped away from the gate. Open it fully. 2 guards stationed outside immediately pulled the heavy doors wider. The road beyond stretched unobstructed beneath the moon. Emily stared at him. You are serious. Completely. But if I am your mate, that does not make you my prisoner. The simplicity of the words struck her harder than any command could have. Nathaniel looked toward the road. Your uncle made a decision he had no right to make. The council accepted your name without confirming your consent. I will deal with both matters. Emily's throat tightened. And what about what you want? Something almost weary passed through his eyes. What I want is irrelevant if your answer is no. For several seconds, she could only hear the wind and her own heartbeat. Then she walked toward the gate. Nathaniel did not follow. 10 feet. 20. 30. She crossed beneath the final stone arch and reached the road outside the palace walls. She should have felt relief. Instead, something strange pulled beneath her ribs. Emily stopped. A sudden wave of emotion moved through her, not her own. Restraint. Loneliness. And beneath both, a deep ache Nathaniel had hidden behind perfect control. Emily slowly turned. He remained exactly where she had left him, framed by the palace lights, giving her every inch of distance she had demanded. His face revealed nothing, but somehow she could feel what it cost him to stand still. Then Ethan Brooks appeared behind the king, breathless from his search. Your Majesty, there is a problem. Nathaniel looked away from Emily. What happened? Ethan lowered his voice, but Emily's sharpened hearing caught every word. The council discovered the mate response. Victoria Hale's father has demanded an emergency hearing. Emily's unease deepened. Ethan continued, and they are blaming Moonridge. Emily had already taken 3 steps toward freedom when one word pulled her back. Moonridge. She stopped beneath the cold moonlight and turned toward the palace. Nathaniel was speaking quietly with Ethan, but she could see the change in him. His shoulders had become rigid. The controlled man who had opened the gate for her now looked like a king preparing to protect something. Why are they blaming my pack? Emily asked. Ethan glanced at Nathaniel before answering. The council believes Moonridge deliberately concealed your potential bond to gain royal protection. That is ridiculous. I did not even know. I know, Nathaniel said. Emily walked back several feet, though she remained outside the gate. What can they do? Ethan hesitated. They can suspend Moonridge's protection petition while they investigate. Emily's heart sank. She pictured Cedar Creek again, the schoolhouse, the bakery, the families preparing for winter. None of them had deceived anyone. Richard had made the choice. She had been kept ignorant of it. Yet an entire community could pay the price. Nathaniel stepped toward her, then deliberately stopped before crossing the threshold. Go home, Emily. She stared at him. You just heard what he said. Yes. Then how can you tell me to leave? Because this is not your burden to carry. His voice was calm, but through that strange new connection, she sensed the effort beneath it. His wolf wanted her closer. Nathaniel wanted something too. Yet he remained on his side of the gate. I will handle the council, he continued. Moonridge will receive a fair hearing whether you stay or not. Emily almost accepted. She wanted the road, the forest, and the familiar little house waiting miles away. But fairness was exactly what had brought her this far. She had demanded the right to choose. Now that she finally had it, running simply because she could no longer felt like freedom. If I leave tonight, they will say Moonridge has something to hide. Let them talk. Talking becomes judgment when powerful people repeat it enough. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but interest. Emily drew a slow breath. I am going back. Ethan looked surprised. Nathaniel did not move. You do not owe me that. I am not doing it for you. For the first time that night, the faintest hint of a smile touched Nathaniel's face. Good. Emily crossed beneath the archway voluntarily. The instant she passed him, warmth moved through that invisible bond again. followed by an unmistakable sense of relief that Nathaniel carefully kept from his expression. She pretended not to notice. They returned through the palace together, but Nathaniel kept several feet between them. No hand at her back. No command to stay near him. No claim. Servants and guards bowed as he passed, then stared at Emily when they thought she was not looking. By the time they reached the corridor outside the council chamber, Richard was waiting, his face filled with relief. "Emily, thank goodness. I was terrified." She stopped before him. "Did you know there might be a bond between the Alpha King and me?" Richard's expression changed. Emily felt the answer before he spoke. "I knew there was a possibility." The floor seemed to shift beneath her. Nathaniel's voice became very quiet. "Explain." Richard looked toward the closed council doors. "There is something about Emily's mother that I never told her." Before Emily could ask what he meant, the doors opened. Victoria Hale stood inside beside her father and 6 royal elders. Her cool gaze settled on Emily. "Perfect," Victoria said. "The little deception has returned." Emily did not look at Victoria. Her attention remained fixed on Richard, because one sentence had suddenly become more important than every accusation waiting inside the council chamber. "What about my mother?" Richard's face tightened. "Emily, this is not the place. You decided that once already." Her voice stayed quiet. "You do not get to decide it again." Nathaniel stood beside her without interrupting. That silence gave Emily something she had not expected from a king: room to speak for herself. Richard lowered his eyes. "Your mother came from the Silver Pine line. Generations ago, their wolves were known for unusually strong mate recognition. Your mother believed that trait had disappeared." Emily felt the pieces shifting into place. "And you thought it might connect me to him?" "I thought there was a possibility. Nothing more." Victoria gave a soft, humorless laugh. "How convenient." Her father, Councilman Hale, stepped forward. Moonridge submitted an Omega with a rare bloodline while requesting royal protection. Whether Miss Carter understood the scheme is irrelevant. Her pack benefited from the attempt. "No," Emily said. Every face turned toward her. Her heartbeat raced, but she continued. "It is not irrelevant. I did not submit myself. I did not know about my mother's history. I did not agree to any bargain." One elder adjusted his ceremonial robe. "Yet you returned after being given permission to leave. Because innocent families should not lose protection over something they did not do." Victoria's gaze sharpened. "Or because you realized being the Alpha King's mate was more appealing than pretending you wanted freedom." Heat rose into Emily's cheeks, but she refused to lower her eyes. Before she could answer, Nathaniel spoke. "Enough." The room became silent. He walked to the center of the chamber, not toward the throne at its far end, but beside Emily. "There will be no punishment against Moonridge based on speculation." Councilman Hale frowned. "Your Majesty, the appearance of manipulation cannot simply be ignored." "Then investigate Richard Carter." Nathaniel's voice remained even. "Investigate every document. Interview every official involved. But you will not punish an entire community because it is politically convenient." Richard looked stricken. Emily felt no satisfaction, only sadness. Nathaniel turned toward him. "Did Emily Carter personally consent to being entered into the choosing ceremony?" Richard swallowed. "No." "Did she know her maternal bloodline might carry unusual mate recognition?" "No." "Did she know royal protection could depend upon her selection?" Richard closed his eyes briefly. "No." Nathaniel faced the council. "Then the matter concerning Emily is settled." Victoria stepped forward. "It cannot be settled. Your wolf recognized her." A murmur traveled through the elders. "If the bond is genuine, she becomes a royal concern." Emily felt the old fear return. A royal concern. Different words. Same cage. Nathaniel must have sensed it through the bond, because he looked at her before answering. His expression softened for only a second. Then he faced the room. "No." Councilman Hale stared at him. "No. Emily Carter is not a royal asset, a treaty condition, or a reward for my wolf." Nathaniel's gaze swept across every person present. "She is not property." The silence afterward felt enormous. Emily could hear the fire crackling in the stone hearth. Nathaniel continued. "Effective immediately, her placement agreement is void. Moonridge's protection review will proceed independently of her relationship with me." Victoria went pale. "And the mate bond?" Nathaniel looked at Emily. His wolf stirred strongly enough that she felt its presence like warmth across the invisible thread between them. Yet he did not reach for her. The bond may recognize her, he said. But recognition is not permission. Emily's breath caught. If Emily ever stands beside me, it will be because she walked there freely. For the first time since entering Blackwood Palace, no one in the room was deciding her future. And somehow, that frightened Emily less than the realization that she was beginning to wonder what she might choose. Emily expected freedom to feel lighter. Instead, as she stepped out of the council chamber, it felt strangely quiet. No guards followed her. No elder called her back. Richard remained behind to answer questions about Moonridge, and Nathaniel had made it clear that Emily was free to leave whenever she wished. She walked alone through the palace until she reached the long gallery overlooking the northern courtyard. Beyond the glass, the gate remained open. The same gate she had fought so hard to reach only an hour earlier. A carriage can be ready within 20 minutes. Nathaniel's voice came from behind her. Emily turned. He had stopped several feet away, leaving the distance between them untouched. "You really want me to leave?" she said. "That is not what I said." "Then what do you want?" For once, the Alpha King seemed to have no immediate answer. His gaze shifted toward the moonlit courtyard. "My wolf has been very clear about what he wants." Despite herself, Emily almost smiled. "I noticed." Nathaniel's expression softened. "But I am not my wolf." The words settled gently between them. Emily studied the man she had feared before she knew his name. Everyone had described the Alpha King as power itself, yet the strongest thing she had seen him do tonight was refuse to use that power against her. "You could have claimed the bond in there," she said. "The council expected you to." "Yes." "Why did you not?" Nathaniel looked directly at her. "Because being chosen by fate is not the same as choosing each other." Something warm moved beneath Emily's ribs. She could not tell whether it belonged to her or traveled through the strange connection between them. Nathaniel continued. "Go home, Emily. See Moonridge. Speak to your family. Decide what you want when there is no room full of people watching you. And if I decide I want nothing to do with this." A flicker of pain crossed his face, so quickly she almost missed it. "Then I will respect your answer." Emily swallowed. That should have made leaving easy. It did not. 20 minutes later, she stood beside a waiting carriage in the northern courtyard. Ethan placed her small travel bag inside, while Nathaniel remained at the palace steps. He did not approach. He did not ask her to stay. Emily climbed into the carriage and closed the door. The horses started forward. Through the window, she watched Blackwood Palace slowly recede beneath the moonlight. 100 feet. 200. Then the road curved toward the forest. Emily pressed her hand against her chest. The bond was still there, faint but unmistakable, carrying something quiet from Nathaniel. Not command. Not possession. Goodbye. Stop the carriage. The driver pulled gently to a halt. Emily stared through the rear window at the distant palace lights. She thought about Richard deciding for her, the council judging her, Victoria assuming ambition had brought her back. Then she thought about Nathaniel opening the gate. She had spent the entire night proving that she had the right to leave. Perhaps choice meant something more than walking away. Emily opened the carriage door. "Miss Carter," the driver asked, "take my bag to the guest residence." She stepped onto the road. "I need to go back." By the time Emily reached the royal hall, representatives from every pack had gathered again. Nathaniel stood before the throne addressing them. "There will be no Luna chosen tonight," he announced. "The royal seat beside mine will remain empty." Emily stopped beneath the doorway. Hundreds of faces turned toward her. Her heart pounded, but this time she did not lower her eyes. "What if?" she called across the silent hall. "I do not want it empty." The entire hall fell silent. Emily stood beneath the towering doorway with the open palace gates far behind her, her breathing unsteady, but her eyes fixed on Nathaniel. Hundreds of guests watched her, yet for once their attention did not make her feel small. She had been brought to Blackwood Palace because someone else made a choice for her. She had escaped because she needed that choice returned. Now she had come back because the decision was finally hers. Nathaniel did not move from the platform. Surprise softened his usually controlled expression. "Emily." She walked toward him. The distance seemed longer than it had earlier, perhaps because no one was forcing her across it. Victoria stood near the council tables, silent now. Richard watched from farther back, regret written across his face. Ethan simply smiled. Emily passed them all. She stopped several feet from Nathaniel. "I need you to understand something." "I am listening." I am not standing here because Moonridge needs protection. Nathaniel nodded. I know. And I am not here because your wolf decided something for us. A quiet murmur traveled through the hall. Nathaniel ignored it. I know that too. Emily drew a breath. I came back because when I asked for freedom, you opened the gate. Something changed in his eyes. Everyone kept telling me what your power could give me. Protection, status, a place beside a king. But none of that made me turn the carriage around. She glanced toward the distant doors. I came back because you were the first person tonight powerful enough to stop me, and you chose not to. Nathaniel's wolf stirred through the bond, warm and unmistakable. One instinctive word brushed the edge of Emily's. Awareness. Mine. Nathaniel closed his eyes briefly, mastering it. When he opened them again, they were silver gray. Human. Gentle. My wolf may recognize you, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. But you belong to no one. Emily felt tears warm her eyes. Nathaniel extended one hand, then stopped before touching her. If you stand beside me, Emily Carter, it will never be because fate commanded it. His hand remained open between them. It will be because you choose me, and because I keep giving you reasons to make that choice tomorrow. Emily looked at his hand. Then she looked at the open doors behind her. Nothing blocked them. Nothing prevented her from leaving. That was what made her next step matter. She placed her hand in his. Warmth moved through the bond, no longer frightening, no longer demanding. Nathaniel released a breath that sounded as though he had been holding it all night. Emily smiled. I am not promising to become your Luna tonight. A few startled whispers rose around them. Nathaniel smiled back. Good. I was hoping we could start with dinner. Emily laughed, and the tension in the hall finally broke. Nathaniel turned toward the gathered packs. Moonridge's protection will be decided on its merits, independently of Emily. And there will be no choosing ceremony tonight. Then he looked at her again. Some things should never be chosen by a room full of strangers. Emily squeezed his hand. Hours earlier, she had raced toward an open gate believing freedom meant getting as far away from Blackwood Palace as possible. Now that same gate remained open behind her, glowing beneath the moon. She could still leave. Nathaniel knew it. So did she. And that was why she stayed. Because true strength had not closed the door behind her. It had held it open and trusted her to choose. If Emily and Nathaniel's journey reminded you that love should protect freedom rather than take it away, please like this story, share it with someone who believes kindness can be stronger than power, and subscribe to the channel for more stories of courage, destiny, and hearts that find each other when they are finally free to choose.